Up next on Newsnight, Sex and the City. And for those who need a catch-up on what this is all about, a handy-dandy review of it all around the world. This is Newsnight. A small confession. I have never seen an episode of Friends. I've never seen ER. I never saw Law and Order. Cheers was background noise. The first episode of Seinfeld I ever saw was the last. I've seen a few since. I hear the series did pretty well. 2 years ago, I found myself at a fancy luncheon event. I was seated next to this stunning woman. We had a lovely chat. She was smart and funny. She said she was an actress. Her name was Kristen Davis. I actually asked her if she'd been able to find any steady work. The table went silent. So it was an odd and embarrassing way that I came to know Sex and the City. But like many of you, I missed a lot, and like many of you, I too got sucked into the last season. For those of you who, like me, aren't exactly sure what all this fuss is about, we offer the entire series, really fast, reported by Beth Nissen.
First, the cast of characters. They are Carrie, who writes a newspaper column about sex and relationships, Samantha, who's in public relations when she's not in bed, Miranda, a sardonic attorney, and Charlotte, more traditional and prim, although she still, let's just say she dates a lot. Here's a season-by-season breakdown of what happens to these four brunch-sharing, cosmo-sipping, lover-seeking gals. Try to keep up. Carrie meets Mr. Big, played by the guy from Law and Order. Big is not his real name. Carrie just calls him that because he's a big shot with big bucks and a big limo. Also a big little black book of other women. That breaks Carrie's heart. Carrie and Big break up. Meanwhile, Samantha dates a 20-something, a married man, and Charlotte's doorman, among others. Miranda goes through a dating dry spell, and Charlotte obsesses about getting married. Okay, that's season 1. Season 2, Carrie realizes she's not over Big, and they get back together, but then
I may have to move to Paris.
They break up again. Meanwhile, Samantha dates a 70-year-old, her neighbors, and Charlotte's brother, among others. Charlotte doesn't find a husband, but she does find some nice shoes. Miranda starts seeing Steve, but she's a lawyer and he's a bartender, and it doesn't work, so they break up, but then they get back together. Carrie starts to date Seth, who is Bon Jovi, but then she runs into Big, who's back from Paris with his beautiful young fiancé. Okay, season 3. Carrie, trying to forget Big, starts dating Aiden, a furniture designer, who's that guy from Northern Exposure, although he hasn't get hit at Big in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Meanwhile, Samantha dates a firefighter, a short man, and her office assistant, among others. Charlotte meets a rich Dr. Trey, who is the guy from Twin Peaks. They get engaged and then get married. Miranda and Steve move in together, but Steve wants to have a baby and Miranda doesn't, so they break up again.
This isn't gonna work, Steve.
Carrie cheats on Aiden with a now married Big, then confesses to Aiden, which breaks his heart. They break up. On to seasons 4 and 5. Carrie and Aiden get back together, move in together, and get engaged, but then Carrie gets cold feet and they break up for good. She sees Big once more, but then he moves to California. Meanwhile, Samantha briefly tries a relationship with someone who has XX chromosomes, but she soon goes back to XY. Newlyweds Charlotte and Trey have bedroom problems. Trey moves out. Charlotte starts to date her divorce attorney. Miranda and Steve see each other again for one night, and Miranda gets pregnant. She has a baby boy and becomes a single working mother. Carrie writes a best-selling book. She starts to date a fellow author, Jack, who is the guy from Office Space, a cult film prized by cubicle workers everywhere. Which brings us to the current season. Jack breaks up with Carrie by Post-it note. Meanwhile, Samantha develops a real relationship with a waiter-slash-actor, Smith, who lovingly stands by Samantha while she goes through chemo for breast cancer and loses her hair. Charlotte converts to Judaism, marries her divorce attorney. They try to have a baby but can't. Charlotte gets a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel instead. Miranda takes up with a handsome doctor who's a guy from LA Law, but then gets back together with Steve. She and Steve get married, move to Brooklyn with their son. Seemingly over Big at last, Carrie gets serious about a Russian artist, Alexander Petrovsky, who is Mikhail Baryshnikov. Petrovsky tells her he's moving to Paris. What's with all the men in Carrie's life moving to Paris? And asks her to move with him.
I'm hoping you'll come and be with me.
She does, despite her friend's misgivings, and a last-minute, last-ditch visit from Big. Big then meets with Carrie's friends, asks what he should do.
Go get our girl.
And that's where things stand at the end of episode 93, with only one more episode to go. Me personally, I'm guessing it'll be a big finish. Beth Nissen, CNN, the Sex and the City.
We're nothing if not efficient around here. Okay, now that you're caught up on it all, When we come back, the real question: how should it end? This is Newsmax.